Ho ho ho! Good morning from Rudolph and myself. Well, this is no ordinary morning. This is a Christmas morning, and yet again I have decided to spend Christmas Day in the Lake District, and I thought I would run off a quick video of the first shot of the day just to explain my thought processes and how I go about shooting. Now, I'm at one of my most favourite locations, Ashness Landing Pier, on the shoreline of Derwentwater. Now, I'm going to get rid of Rudolph. There you go. He was working hard last night. So I've set the camera up. Took about 10 minutes. It's quite a difficult scene, this. If you try and get the shoreline in the background relatively level, then the pier isn't, and vice versa. It's a really difficult scene to set up, actually. Now, I've got the scene set up. The water's high enough to partly submerge the pier, so it's going to make for a relatively interesting shot, and I am going to shoot long exposure. I want the water misting out, so therefore you don't see the ripples and the textures and various other things. Now, because of the recent floods, the pier actually is leaning to the right. Almost looks more like a roller coaster. So if I suddenly disappear underwater, the pier is given way. It doesn't feel massively stable, I have to confess, but you know, in for a penny, in for a pound. So I've set the camera up. I'm on a 16-35 lens on a full frame Canon 5D Mark III, and I'm shooting at about 22mm, and I am shooting in the portrait format, which I generally do here. The pier itself leads through the scene, and it does suit portrait format. Now, I've also decided to pop on a polarizer, and the reason for using a polarizer is I want to darken the water around the pier, just this front section here, and also because it's the latest Lee landscape polarizer, it also warms up the colours of the trees and the foliage in the background, and also the pier. So that simply clicks into place. Now, there's a big disparity in the light between the sky and your foreground. Your foreground is that much darker, the sky is that much brighter. There's no sun as such, but there is a big discrepancy between the two. Now, I've already calculated it, and I'm going to use a 3-stop filter. Now, I use Lee Soft Edge grad filters. So I'm going to use a 3-stop, which is a 0.9, and what that will do is it will darken the sky, which in turn will lighten the foreground. Now, simply place it down over the sky. I use the histogram to assist me in getting the light right. Other people use their own methods, that's absolutely fine. Now, I've got the histogram fairly central, so I'm not going to blow out any highlights, and I've got detail in the shadows as well. I'm shooting at f11, and currently at ISO 100, and I'm half a second. Now, if I want to slow the water down, I use Lee filters. Now, I've either got the Lee stopper, the little stopper, or I've got the big stopper. I'm going to use the little one. Now, this is glass. They are brittle, they do break, you've got to be very careful. But this will trick the camera into thinking it's much darker outside. Now, you take your reading at half a second and you convert it using their little chart, and half a second on the chart gives me 30 seconds, which is perfect. Exactly what I'm after. So all I have to do is slide this filter into the holder, and you slide it into the slot closest to the lens so that no light can get in. All the filters are on. You've then got to change your shutter speed to 30 seconds. Okay? Now it's all set up. I've focused on the second post out. Gives me plenty of depth of field at f11. Now, two things you've got to be aware of when shooting long exposure. You need as solid a base as possible. No movement. So I'm going to have to be incredibly still. And I'm also going to cover the viewfinder. I do not want light leaking into it. Otherwise it will leave red streaks on the image itself. So I've clicked the shutter speed. It takes about 30 seconds. That should iron out a lot of the ripples and the textures on the water, and it should give you a lovely long exposed image. So we'll see what it looks like in a few seconds. Let's have a look. Beautiful. And there we go. Check the histogram. Perfectly central. I will show you the image at the end of the video. Don't worry about that. But that is my Christmas morning image. Number one of hopefully many. And that's it. So I hope you've all had a very, very fantastic Christmas day. And I know I am. See you soon.